Hey there. I know you have been watching the boring price action in CRISPR Therapeutics, waiting for the payday. I have been doing the same. Since we are into a new year, I thought I would have to look at CRISPR Therapeutics again. Now I have it in my portfolio. I bought it for a swing trade yesterday, and it's not going very well. So I did a deep dive. What if I told you that CRISPR Therapeutics is now a company entering a year where commercial execution and late-stage clinical data could meaningfully re-rate the stock, either up or down? Well, in this video, I want to walk you through every major CRISPR Therapeutics program, explain how big each market actually is, what the real risks are, and then clearly lay out what matters in first half 2026 versus second half 2026 from an investor point of view. Please remember that I'm a retail investor like yourself, and this is not financial advice. That said, let's get started. Hey, welcome back to Share Trek, where science meets investments, and I'm your host, Raj. Today's video is a deep dive on CRISPR Therapeutics 2026 pipeline. We are looking at the milestones based on the company's recent investor presentation. The goal here is simple. If you are a retail investor like myself, trying to decide whether CRISPR belongs in your portfolio, you need clarity on addressable markets, timelines, and risk, not hype. I've done the homework. I'm sharing it with you. In case you find any deficiencies or wrong information, please put that in the comment section so that I can address that in a subsequent video and inform myself as well. That said, I want to start off first of all with the elephant in the room, Casgevy, for sickle cell disease and beta thalassemia. Casgevy is an ex vivo CRISPR-edited hematopoietic stem cell therapy that reactivates fetal hemoglobin by editing the BCL11A enhancer. This is the first approved CRISPR-based therapy globally developed, and it was developed jointly with Vertex Pharmaceuticals. And from a market perspective, the global sickle cell and transfusion-dependent beta thalassemia treatment market is estimated as roughly around $4 to $5 billion annually, with growth expected as access improves. Importantly, Casgevy is positioned as a one-time, potentially curative therapy with per-patient pricing in the $1 million range. From an investor standpoint, this is critical. Casgevy is currently CRISPR Therapeutics' only commercial product and revenue source. All other programs are optionality. Casgevy, I think, is the floor. It's going to save the day for CRISPR with every earnings release. Everything else is a risk factor. The risk here is not scientific anymore, it's execution. Adoption of Casgevy depends on transplant center capacity, conditioning regimens, reimbursement negotiations, and how quickly patients move through the system. Even with approval, revenue ramps can be slow because revenue is shared, cost and responsibility are shared between Vertex and CRISPR Therapeutics. So we have to allow for a little bit of a lag between actual sales and actual receipt of the proceeds. Now, for 2026, I think Casgevy will have quarterly commercial updates throughout the year. Every quarterly earning there will be update, and these updates will likely remain the single most important downside protection factor for the stock. That's my opinion. I would like to hear from you what you think. Now, moving on next to in vivo HSC editing, which is next generation platform. CRISPR Therapeutics is also developing an in vivo hematopoietic stem cell editing program aimed at editing stem cells directly inside the patient's body rather than extracting and reinfusing them. If successful, this could dramatically simplify treatment and expand access beyond specialized transplant centers. The addressable market mirrors Casgevy's indication, but the practical market could be larger due to easier administration. However, I would like to caution you that this is still preclinical. Delivery, specificity, and safety remains unresolved challenges at this point of time, and they will get progressively resolved. And until they are resolved, there is an inherent risk out that. Now, from an investor's perspective, I think this is a long-dated platform value, not a revenue driver for 2026. This will lead us to wait. A preclinical data update is expected in the second half of this year. That's the only milestone coming from this therapy. Next, I want to turn my attention to CTX310 for cardiovascular disease. I think CTX310 is one of the most important pipeline assets from a valuation standpoint for CRISPR Therapeutics. It's an in vivo gene editing therapy targeting ANGPTL3, a well-validated lipid target associated with cardiovascular risk. The broader global cardiovascular drug market exceeds $175 billion annually, with lipid-lowering therapies forming a substantial portion. CTX310 is not meant to replace statins broadly, but to address patients with residual risk or genetic dyslipidemias, which still represents a very large commercial opportunity. And from an investor perspective, this is where CRISPR Therapeutics moves beyond rare diseases into mass market medicine. The risk here is regulatory and safety driven. Editing genes permanently in patients who are not terminally ill raises the bar for acceptable adverse events. And that's the reason why, despite being able to prove that transplanting bone marrow with a certain mutation can help HIV patients get rid of HIV. HIV patients are not allowed to just go in and demand a bone marrow transplant. It's only done if a HIV patient has blood cancer and is at a risk of death if a bone marrow transplant is not done. And that's where the opportunity is taken to incorporate the mutation and help them recover from HIV as well. So that's the background. I'm just giving you the example. So remember, editing genes permanently in patients who are not terminally ill raises the bar for acceptable adverse events. So we have to be careful about our expectation in this regard. We should be cautiously optimistic. There is never a situation where technology cannot overcome known obstacles that at one time was thought to be unsurmountable. Now, for 2026, phase 1b clinical trial data is expected in the second half of 2026, and this is a potential stock-moving event. So we have a huge catalyst to come in second half 2026. Now, you may ask, Raj, when? I think that when a company says second half 2026 and leaves it broad, I don't think anything happens before the last quarter. And then when we enter the last quarter, if we hadn't heard anything about it, then I would say probably the last 2 months or the last month is when we might hear about it. So these are all difficult projects. It's not like the company is lazy or anything. These are all difficult projects. They are difficult technical things to achieve. So we as investors have to be patient. And if we don't have the patience, then I think we have no business being in this segment, because all companies are going to be like this. Now, let me turn my attention to CTX611, which I have been always bullish about. This is for type 1 diabetes. CTX611 is a gene-edited cell therapy designed to restore insulin production in patients with type 1 diabetes. Conceptually, this targets a functional cure rather than chronic insulin management. The type 1 diabetes market, treatment market, is estimated at roughly $10 billion annually, driven largely by lifelong insulin use and glucose monitoring. A durable cell-based therapy could shift this entire economic model. From an investor's point of view, CTX611, it seems to me, is one of CRISPR's most ambitious programs, and also one with meaningful technical and regulatory risk. Durability, immune protection, and manufacturing scale all matter in this case. For 2026, phase 2 top-line data is expected in the second half of 2026, making this another key inflection point. So we have a lot of meaningful catalysts possible in the second half of 2026. So for a long-term investor in CRISPR, those are the positive points. But remember, when you're holding a genomic company stock, waiting for a milestone to happen 12 months or 11 months or 10 months down the line, those months are fraught with risk because anything can happen in a trial. We saw that with Intellia. Even though the patient death was probably not because of the therapy, the stock did suffer for a while before recovering. So keep those things in mind. CTX340 is the next thing I want to talk about. It's for resistant hypertension. It targets resistant hypertension using in vivo gene editing. Hypertension sits within the same massive cardiovascular market I mentioned earlier, but gene editing in this space is still experimental. This program is early. While the theoretical market is huge, investors should remember that this is exploratory rather than value defining at this stage. For 2026, we are going to, in the first half, we are going to get phase 1 trial initiation. That's the milestone that we are looking at. That could be a blip in the radar in terms of the price of the stock, but there's a long way to go before we can get really excited about it. Now, the other candidate I want to talk about is CTX460 for alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. CTX460 targets alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, which is a rare genetic liver and lung disease. And this has been designated an orphan disease. And the orphan disease market is usually smaller. It has smaller patient numbers, but high value per patient. So these programs are often attractive from a regulatory standpoint, but don't usually define large cap valuations on their own because the market size is smaller. It's very niche. For 2026, phase 1 trial initiation is going to happen in the middle of 2026. So when a company says mid 2026, imagine that it's going to happen around the end of June onwards, maybe up to August. That's what I would think of. And finally, there is another program called as lipoprotein A. It's an elevated lipoprotein A program, and it's a genetically driven cardiovascular risk factor affecting roughly 20% of the population. Current treatment options for this population is absolutely limited, and this program sits within the broader lipid lowering market, which itself is tens of billions of dollars in size. However, CRISPR's LPA program remains preclinical at this stage. A program update is likely sometime in the second half of this year. Another therapy that one has to look at is Zugocel, allogeneic CAR-T for autoimmune and oncology. And this is being developed as an off-the-shelf CAR-T platform across autoimmune diseases and hematologic cancers. The global CAR-T market is currently around $5 billion, with projections expanding significantly if CAR-T moves into autoimmune disease. However, this is also a highly competitive space. You already know that there is a whole lot of CD19-based CAR-T therapies already in the market for blood cancers. And one of the main things to note is that they have FDA black label or black box warning saying that there is a B-cell malignancy possibility. So the question is, can CRISPR Therapeutics avoid getting such a label? And if it can do so, then it's going to be superior than any of those therapies because this is going to be off the shelf. The duration between a patient requiring the therapy and it being available to the patient is very short. Whereas in case of autologous therapies, you got to take out the blood sample, you have to prepare the cells, you got to do the modification, you have to do QC, quality control, then you have to multiply those cells and then reinfuse it in the patient. All of that needs logistics, facilities, and time and expertise. All that is avoided when it's off the shelf. So the key question here is for investors is whether allogeneic CAR-T can demonstrate durability and safety comparable to autologous products. And if it succeeds, I think it's going to be a blockbuster. And for this therapy, phase 1 rheumatology data and top-line ITP and WIHA data and phase 1 hematologic oncology data, all these data are expected to come in the second half of 2026. Now, there is also in vivo CAR-T platform optionality that CRISPR Therapeutics is working on. And it's exploring in vivo CAR-T where CAR-T cells are generated directly inside the patient. If this works, it could reshape the entire CAR-T field. But this is a very high-risk early-stage science. 2026 will see a preclinical data update expected in the first half of 2026. So let me just put a table out here on the screen so you can very clearly see the milestone summary for 2026. So let us talk about first half 2026. We have CTX340 phase 1 trial initiation, in vivo CAR-T preclinical data update. And when we come to second half of 2026, we have Casgevy ongoing quarterly commercial updates, which will keep on coming with every earnings report. So we have some dates for that, and it's absolutely guaranteed that it will happen. Apart from this, we have in vivo HSC preclinical update. Then we have CTX310 phase 1b cardiovascular data, CTX611 phase 2 top-line data, then lipoprotein A program update. Then we have Zugocel autoimmune and oncology clinical data. We have CTX460 phase 1 initiation. All of these are expected in 2026. From investor point of view, when I look at all of these things, like after reading up on all these, I had various thoughts as I was going through all the pipeline. I would like to summarize them all. I'm thinking that from an investor perspective, Casgevy execution anchors the downside. while CTX310 and CTX611 are the two most important upside catalysts for 2026. Everything else built long-term platform value, but should be discounted heavily for risk. Why do I say that? Well, that is because anything that is in a clinical trial or entering into a clinical trial can get some FDA news that can make it go down. The other problem is also that while we are waiting, if there is a patient casualty or something that happens in any of those trials, those things push the stock down sharply, and we have to wait until it's clarified that the patient death did not happen because of the therapy. You have the recent case of Intelia that you can look at. That did exactly that to the share, and the shares are bouncing back now, but it was a lot of pain for investors who had invested in Intelia, and they had to wait a long time before they could gain something. So I would say that in my mind, I'm thinking that if I'm bullish on CRISPR Therapeutics, then I'm betting that gene editing moves from rare diseases into large cardiovascular and metabolic markets safely and at scale. Otherwise, I think I shouldn't look at CRISPR at this stage. Now, friends, you have been looking at our channel for a while now. I have a request for you. If you have not subscribed, can you please subscribe and help grow the channel? And also, please check out our free Substack. You will find a detailed article on this topic in the Substack so that you can take your own time going through the charts and reading everything. The link to the Substack is in the description. And this brings me to an end of this video. I would like you to subscribe once again. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye for now. Have a great weekend.